All right, everybody, welcome. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss with an impromptu last-minute live stream here on Tuesday. I wanted to come on because I know that I got a lot of questions today about who people should add on for their teams this week with the waivers coming off, the first waiver batch that will drop tomorrow in a lot of leagues. And of course, there's a lot of names out there that have been bandied about in terms of being prime waiver wire options to pick up for this week. And of course, a lot of that is due to injuries. Big name players like Keenan Allen going down and T. Higgins with a concussion. He may not play this week. Elijah Mitchell. So with quite a few names that are going to be out of commission this week, now we have to try to find replacements. And I think there's some good options on the waiver wire. Now, as I always say at the top, if you're not already a subscriber, hit the subscribe button so you're a part of all the fun, and also the notification button, because like tonight, I decided to come on at the last minute and do a live stream, and you wouldn't have known about it if you didn't hit the notification button. So make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification button. All right, I already told everybody to post questions in the chat, like always. First one, Randy Miller's the first one in. Assuming Higgins does not play, pick 2. Allen Robinson, Thielen, Michael Carter, CEH, Mahomes is my QB. All right, so Higgins is going to be 50-50. It seems like it wasn't – I mean, I'm not a doctor, but the team seems optimistic that at least he has a somewhat reasonable chance to play this week. So maybe the concussion wasn't as bad. I mean, I don't know the degree of concussions, but the fact that the Bengals are speaking optimistically, maybe that lends you to believe that he might play this week. But if I had to pick 2, let's say he's out, I definitely would run it back with Robinson. I think Robinson's going to be fine. I mean, that was the story of Thursday night, obviously, but we saw with Mike Williams – and some other big name players who really did not have DJ Moore as another one, did not have a great week 1. We can't cut bait and run already after one game from Allen Robinson. So I would start him. They're playing the Falcons. I think that's a generous matchup for him. In terms of the other 2, I would go Michael Carter because, again, it's going to be a lot of dump-off passes, and if it's a PPR league, then Michael Carter is going to get quite a bit of work. He is working as a de facto starter for the Jets, which is what I said was going to happen all along. Breece Hall had a fumble in the opener. He's still got a lot to learn. It was an exorbitant amount of passes. I believe it was 53 passes by Joe Flacco. When you throw that many passes, you're going to lose the ball game. The Jets are not going to throw nearly that often, but I think Carter is going to be the one that's going to be targeted. He'll be in on third downs and in the hurry up late in games. And I actually think Carter – is a pretty fairly decent runner as well. So I would go with those 2, Allen Robinson and Michael Carter. And then you want to know Dawson Knox or Everett. I got to go Everett. Everett looked good week 1. And with Keenan Allen not playing even more so, you can bump up Everett even more. And the problem with Everett is just the boneheaded plays, the drops, the fumbles, the running the wrong routes. The talent is there. He's a very, very underrated receiver. He jived pretty quickly with Herbert in the opener. And again, with Keenan Allen not being there, I think he's going to get a decent amount of targets. Whereas Dawson Knox is as extreme a touchdown-dependent tight end or player, receiver for that matter, as you can get. So I wasn't thrilled with Dawson Knox coming into the season. I'm certainly not actively looking to use him, even though as nuclear as the Bills' offense is, you have 2 major weapons in Stephon Diggs and the Davis there that are going to get the majority of the attention from Josh Allen. So I'm not using Dawson Knox there. All right, Warrior Loft, start Hunt versus the Jets or A.J. Dillon versus the Bears. That's a tough one. That is all right, I'm going to say Dillon versus the Bears. The Jets don't stop the run well at all. That's been an issue for them. Although they did fairly well defensively, at least for the first half against the Ravens last week. I like A.J. Dillon. He is going to be the goal line back. He's catching the football really well. I mean, that's been the biggest surprise with A.J. Dillon, how good he's been as a receiver. And the Bears are horrible. Elijah Mitchell was in the midst of a really big game before he got hurt, and Deebo Samuel had the rushing score. The one good thing Trey Lance did is he ran well, when he was taking the ball out wide. So I would go A.J. Dillon there. Although Kareem Hunt was fantastic last week. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I think the Browns are going to get up early in this game, even with Jacoby Brissett, because the Jets are just that bad. And I think that Nick Chubb would be used more with a lead. All right, would decision change if Alan Lazard plays? Oh, yeah, definitely. I didn't see that part. I should have looked at that while answering the first question. I told everybody to run out, and I posted a video today to run out and trade for Alan Lazard. Aaron Rodgers is so fed up with the Green Bay receivers right now. You could just see it. It started with the drop by Christian Watson when he was wide open down the field. You can just see the frustration. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a lot of patience for receivers that make mistakes and drop the ball. Alan Lazard is somebody he does trust. And if Lazard plays this week, like I think he will, then I would use Lazard, for sure over Hunt. For Dylan, boy, the Packers look so bad. I still think I actually would go Dylan just because Lazard might be a little rusty. Randy, how did I do in my leagues? I won both of my leagues. Now, I was actually absolutely shocked that I was able to pull it off because I had Allen Robinson in both of those leagues and I started him in both. So I was way behind on the projection going into Sunday. But I had Michael Pittman in one league. I had Lamar Jackson in both leagues. So Pittman totally went bonkers, and Lamar Jackson had a very good game with the 3 touchdown passes. I had Travis Kelce in one league. So I did pretty well, a major comeback, if you will. And the rest of my, and Brandon Cooks as well. Brandon Cooks was one of my players. He played well. I love Brandon Cooks this year. There's one stat that I like to keep repeating about Brandon Cooks. He was on a 160 target pace with Davis Mills as his quarterback last year, and he's picking up right where he left off this year. 160 targets is where Stephon Diggs has been the last 2 years. Just remember that. Hey, Robert, how are you? Again, offered Javonte and Lazard for Pittman. Have any thoughts on that trade? Who are your other running backs? Robert, I'd have to see who your other running backs are because Javonte Williams looked fantastic. And if they're going to check down as much as they are to him, it's going to be tough to trade him. Although I think Michael Pittman's going to lead the entire NFL in receptions outside of maybe, Cooper Kupp. I think it's Kupp, Jefferson, and Pittman in terms of receptions. So you have Penny and Mixon. Oh, those are 2 good options. So offer, you know what? I just might. If you have Mixon's great, Penny's good. I think, yeah, you know what? I think I would do that. You know what though? This guy's chasing Javonte, whoever's offering you this. Try to get something else with Pittman, even if it's just like the 4th player in this deal is the worst out of the 4. Just try to get a little something back because I do like Lazard. I think Javonte Williams could be the running back 1 if Melvin Gordon gets hurt. So try to get a little something back in return. Maybe a Michael Carter or, just somebody that has maybe some upside. So, so you're going to be, you're getting, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. All right. So you're getting offered Javonte and Lazard, and you already have Mixon. No, I would hold on to Pittman then. I would definitely hold on to Pittman. Everybody's going to want Pittman. I think I think you could do better. Even though I said to run out and get Lazard, we still don't know how good that's going to look. We know how good it's going to look with Pittman and Matt Ryan. So, you know what? If you have Diggs and Thomas to go with Pittman, that's an almost unbeatable trifecta of receivers. I would hold on to Pittman. Should you regret taking Higgins and Evans over AJB and Pittman at picks 24 to 25? I mean, I like Pittman over Higgins and Evans for sure. Listen, Higgins is going to be fine. And Evans too, honestly, Randy, you can't really beat yourself up over that because both of those guys are, Evans is the alpha receiver in that offense. And now Chris Godwin hurt again. I think Evans is going to go off on a weekly basis. You can't kick yourself over it. I did like Pittman. I saw this coming because Matt Ryan loves to heavily target his number 1 receiver, as we saw for years and years and years with Julio Jones. So I wouldn't beat yourself up over that. And yeah, Robert, hold on to Pittman. I think you should definitely hold on to Pittman. All right, so fresh off of the presses here, I have the Overreaction Tuesday videos. I usually do a separate video on this, but I wanted to tie it with the stream tonight. So I have a friend of mine big fantasy nut, who helps me with the stream, helps me organize things. So I told him to write down 7 things for the Overreaction Tuesday. So I'm going to decide if it's an overreaction or if it's a not overreaction. All right. So there's 7 things here. He wrote them out. I haven't seen them before. I'm going to look at it right now and I'm take them one at a time, and I'll tell you if it's an overreaction or not an overreaction. All right, so the first one he wrote is Trey Lance is already struggling under the weight of expectations. Can he be benched soon? Wow, that is the $1 million question already going around the social media about Trey Lance. One game, that's all it took. That's an overreaction. Listen, anybody who saw that game, the field was an absolute disgrace. The Bears should be embarrassed by the conditions of that field. Nobody could succeed in that, especially a young quarterback who's barely played the last couple of years. It was a tsunami, Randy Miller. I mean, it was beyond ridiculous. You have to give Lance a mulligan on this, all right? And it can't just be one game and let's jump ship, all right? Let's see how he does again this week. He's got a better matchup against Seattle. I think I've been hesitant on Lance through the summer. I do like the upside, but I wasn't diving in with both feet like everybody else was. And it was flooded, Robert. It was a disgrace. And there was just no way. And the worst of that rain came when Lance was trying to had to throw the ball on almost every down at the end. So that's an overreaction. You got to give this another couple of games. Remember, he has hardly played the last couple of years. His last college season was just one game because of COVID. And then, the 2 starts last year. He's still very green and very raw, but he's a hell of an athlete. He's got good weapons. The passing numbers may not be great, but, can he be Jalen Hurts light? I think eventually he could be. But after one game, he's not going to be. No, you can't bench him. I didn't like the fact that Jimmy G had his contract restructured. I think that the 49ers should just got rid of him. It sends the message that they're not totally behind Lance, but that's an overreaction for me. All right, second one, Khalil Herbert should be the Bears starting running back. That is not an overreaction. He absolutely should be the Bears starting running back. Khalil Herbert, I've said it from the very beginning, even last year, this guy's got some juice in his legs that David Montgomery simply doesn't have. It was beyond embarrassing how Montgomery played. Yes, it was a rough field, but you know what? Herbert played on that same field, and he ran pretty damn well, and he scored a touchdown. Montgomery averaging less than 2 yards a carry with all the carries he got. I think it was like 19 carries. I don't remember the exact number, but it was pathetic. And this is who David Montgomery is. Montgomery is a volume-based runner. He's Najee Harris to the extreme with not the athleticism of Harris. He's going to average under 4 per carry, which is not good for a running back. But the fact that he's been used so heavily and has been the rare bell cow back, it's enabled him to hold running back 2 value. Khalil Herbert has to be a thing. This is a new coaching staff. Get him out there. He can catch the ball. I think we're going to see more like a 50-50 split going forward. And Herbert was taking the goal line work, Randy. You're absolutely right. The fact that Herbert was taking the goal line work is the key there. If the Bears want to trade Montgomery, I'm all for it. I'm not sure what his contract status is. If somebody can look that up. I remember that they were negotiating a new contract. I don't know if he got a new deal, but this is not an overreaction. Khalil Herbert should be the starting running back. All right, the third one, A.J. Dillon was the better buy than Aaron Jones. That also is not an overreaction. A.J. Dillon was the much better buy. And honestly, I should have saw this coming too. I'm an Aaron Jones apologist. I'll be the first to admit I am an Aaron Jones apologist. I like Aaron Jones every year more than the average fantasy football player. I just love how tough he is. He's got a nose for the end zone. He catches the ball really well, coming out of the backfield. He's a trusted outlet for Aaron Rodgers. But you know what? A lot of things went wrong in game 1, but A.J. Dillon didn't go wrong. Aaron Jones, very disappointing, his production in week 1. A.J. Dillon has really developed nicely as a receiver. And the most important thing with Dillon is he's getting the goal line work. So A.J. Dillon has a 4th-round pick, the much better buy over Aaron Jones, who was a late 1st, early 2nd-round pick. Randy Miller says Montgomery's contract's up in March. Okay, so listen, if his contract is up in March and the Bears are not going anywhere, you flip Montgomery. Send him somewhere else. Unleash Herbert, and we'd be good with that. So, I'm not sure where they could send him, but somebody will come looking for him with, but hey, San Francisco, there you go. The 4th one here, A.J. Brown will be this year's Cooper Cup 2021. Wow, did this guy go bonkers last week. A.J. Brown, holy smokes. If anybody was playing A.J. Brown, my condolences. And I actually survived playing Cooper Cup in one of my leagues. A.J. Brown, listen, that's an overreaction, all right? I know that Jalen Hurts is almost obsessively fixating on A.J. Brown, and that was going back to the summer as well. And I'm not taking anything away of how awesome A.J. Brown played in that opener. He was a man among boys. He is as athletic a receiver as you're going to find. He can take it to the house whenever 13 targets. You're right, Randy. That was insane production. But I think it's an overreaction. He's not going to be the Cooper Kupp of 2021. That's going to go to Justin Jefferson, first of all. Can he be a top 5 guy? 100%, absolutely. And I've been one who fades A.J. Brown every year, and I did it again this year. Maybe it's going to finally catch up with me. I just didn't like the fact how he ran very hot and cold from one game to the next. He'd catch 10 passes for 2 touchdowns one week, and then the next week 2 catches for 15 yards. That happened way too often during his time in Tennessee. And also he's beat up constantly. He's like Julio Jones. He's constantly battling injuries. He's nicked up. He's questionable day to day. That's the A.J. Brown MO. But this offense seems to suit him well, and Jalen Hurts really is targeting him a lot. All right, the next item, Davante Adams and Darren Waller will swallow up Hunter Renfrow. I think that's an overreaction. Listen, it was a dud of a game for Renfrow. There's no doubt about it. Derek Carr didn't really play well. But a Josh McDaniels offense definitely, always, habitually has a slot receiver that catches a lot of passes. And Renfrow, what he did last year was no accident. And it's going to come back to him. I mean, Davante Adams is going to go off every week. We know that. And let me tell you something. He doesn't miss Aaron Rodgers. That the chemistry he has with Derek Carr is real. Going back to Fresno State, they look great. I know a lot of people. I was hemming and hawing between Davante Adams and Stephon Diggs after the big 3. Chase and Jefferson and Kupp went off the board. I finished with Diggs ahead of Adams, and honestly, Diggs was a monster himself. That one could go either way, but Adams is every bit the wide receiver one he was in Green Bay. Darren Waller. He was just all right. I mean, Darren Waller didn't light the world on fire in week 1, but I think Renfrow will be fine. I don't think there's going to be an issue there. Robert, JT, JJ is a monster. Yeah, for sure. JT and JJ are monsters. And I have JJ in one league. And I said this summer, I bumped him ahead of Cooper Kupp. And then after that Thursday night game, I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But boy, Jefferson was ridiculous. He's got the greatest degree of separation of any receiver in football in terms of in and out of his cuts. All right, the next item, number 6, Saquon Barkley can be running back 1. That is definitely not an overreaction. He can absolutely be a running back 1. 160 yards first game, caught a bunch of passes, scored twice, had the winning 2-point conversion. This is what the healthy Barkley looks like. This is rookie year Saquon Barkley in all its glory. So those who use that late first-round pick on him, or even earlier in the summer and got him as late as the late second round or early third round, well done. I salute you. Hats off to you, because how about the people that went at the end of the first round, Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift? That was a combination, or Barkley or Stephon Diggs. That's a combination that was very feasible at the end of round 1, and I'm sure a lot of people ended up with that combination. Damn, they're sitting pretty after a week. Anyway, getting back to Barkley. Can he challenge, Jonathan Taylor? Absolutely. He's going to catch more passes than Jonathan Taylor. I think Taylor, probably will have more touchdowns. But listen, Brian Dable knows offense, and he's putting this guy, he's designing this offense, scheming this offense around the strengths of Barkley, and it's working. At least one game, it's working against a very well-coached Titans team. I was very impressed by it for sure. All right, and the last one on the overreaction Tuesday, Ramondre Stevenson will suffer under New England's offensive dysfunction. Sadly, that's not an overreaction. The Patriots offense is broken. I mean, it was pathetic. Mac Jones has got a back injury now. I know Ty Montgomery is out for the next 4 weeks. That will help Stevenson garner more pass receptions. It was a disappointing week 1. I have Stevenson in one of my leagues. I made it a point to draft him, to get Stevenson, get a share of him, because that's how highly I thought of Stevenson. But we started hearing rumblings early in the summer about how Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, we didn't know which one was going to be the main play caller. And Patricia's a former defensive coordinator. Joe Judge is a special teams guy. Not a good fit. Bill Belichick, I don't know what he's doing with that offensive coordinator position, but it's not working. Miami absolutely throttled them. Nothing impressed me at all about the New England's offense in week 1. The running backs, the receivers, Jones, nothing impressed me at all. So that is not an overreaction. Ramondre Stevenson could suffer under the dysfunction of New England. So, that's not something that I think is that outlandish. All right, so we have waivers tomorrow. I talked about the waiver ads that I posted this morning. Some guys stand out above the rest. Curtis Samuel for one. And it's ironic that he's got the last name Samuel because he reminds me of Deebo Samuel. As a matter of fact, if he stays healthy, and that's been the biggest problem with Curtis Samuel, if he could stay healthy, I think he could do a fairly good 2021 Deebo Samuel impression. They're using him in the running game. They're using him heavily in the passing game. Now, I know Dotson went off for 2 touchdowns as well, but if I had the choice between the two, it would be Curtis Samuel. I don't think all 3 receivers are going to eat on a weekly basis. And Dotson honestly did not have a lot of targets, but the 2 touchdowns stand out. Terry McLaurin's going to be fine. Do you trust Carson Wentz? He had 4 touchdown passes, but he also threw his 2 bonehead interceptions. That's a Carson Wentz story for you. But Curtis Samuel would be probably the highest priority waiver ad for me, especially among the receivers. And then as far as the rest of the positions, I do love Taysom Hill. You know how I feel about Taysom Hill. He's a cheat code. He did some big things in that first game. Alvin Kamara is kind of banged up, so you know what? I'm good with using a high waiver claim on Taysom Hill. The other guys that I like, obviously Jeff Wilson. You got to bring him aboard. It's a little murky. Wilson has done some good things in the past in a part-time role. Is Deebo Samuel going to get more carries? Is the kid from LSU, Davis Price, going to become more of a factor? I think he will. He's going to be up. Jordan Mason is also going to be a factor. So I'm not 100% sure that Wilson's going to get the majority of the carries, but I think it's going to be the fact that Mitchell's going to be out for possibly 8 weeks. I think it's well worth adding him. Those who own T. Higgins have to be in on Tyler Boyd. All right, Tyler Boyd had a touchdown. We've seen Tyler Boyd in PPR leagues do some really good things over the years. I think Tyler Boyd is a priority if you are an owner of T. Higgins. Listen, James Robinson too. I did the crisis point on Travis Etienne. Make sure you go watch that crisis point. Travis Etienne is hurting because of James Robinson's solid start. He had 2 touchdowns. Robinson's excellent in pass protection. He played 49% of the snaps compared to 51% for Etienne. He's excellent in pass protection. The fact that he's working on first and second down, Etienne is primarily in there on third down, skews the opportunities Robinson's way. And Robinson, to me, also is going to be the goal line back. And he played well, coming off the Achilles injury. So James Robinson absolutely should be picked up. People don't remember or they forget how good he was as an undrafted rookie 2 years ago. And then last year, the dysfunction with Urban Meyer, he did it as best as he could under a situation where the coach just didn't believe in him. So now you have Doug Peterson, who is a firm disciple of the running back committee. You have to target James Robinson off the waiver wire this week as well. Jameis Winston, if you are a Dak Prescott owner, you got to go in on Jameis Winston. He's the number 1 quarterback ad. If Kirk Cousins is there, if you're in a shallower league and Cousins is there, or Derek Carr, you go with them over Winston. Highly unlikely they're available, but I would go Winston over the rest of them. All right. By the way, that New Orleans passing game looks pretty damn good. I know the Falcons, their MO is to lay down late in games. They did it again. It was a weak Falcons defense, and that, should give you hope for Allen Robinson this week. But listen, Jameis Winston, we've seen what he can do in Tampa Bay. He's going to throw it down the field. He's going to put up good passing yardage, good, decent amount of touchdowns. And he's not turning the ball over. He hasn't turned the ball over since coming to New Orleans. So I think that's somebody that you want to look at as well. Josh Palmer, Keenan Allen's not playing. I know Carter had the most receptions, I guess, if you will, off the bench, but Josh Palmer ran the second most routes behind Mike Williams. And by the way, the Mike Williams thing, I don't want to hear it. There's nothing wrong with Mike Williams. Go trade for him. He's going to go nuts this week. I bet you he has 5 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. I have no qualms about Mike Williams at all. This is who he is. Like A.J. Brown when he was with Tennessee, Williams goes hot and cold. It's not always, overly consistent. Robert, I saw that they signed Marlon Mack to the practice squad. That means nothing. Marlon Mack is washed. He's just a body. I know they brought in Devontae Freeman and LaMichael P. Ryan to take a look at those guys. Marlon Mack is washed, so I wouldn't really worry about that. But getting back to Mike Williams, like I said with Alan Lazar, trade for Mike Williams. Take advantage of the buy low window. I certainly would do that as well. On the flip side, CD Lamb owners, I definitely feel for you, man. Oh, my God. I mean, it cost you a second-round pick, and I was as high on CD Lamb as anybody. That just utter devastation. Dak Prescott injuries just ruined CD Lamb for the time being. Don't buy Jerry Jones's idiotic statement that he's going to be back in 3 or 4 weeks. This is an 8-week injury. We saw Russell Wilson come back from a similar injury last year, and it took him a good 2 or 3 games before he even looked anywhere near like his old self. So, in shallow leagues, if you want to even think about cutting Dak Prescott, I wouldn't have an issue for it because I think he's still going to have a problem gripping the football when he does come back. Dalton Schultz. Maybe Cooper Rush targets him a lot as a safety valve. I'm not as concerned about Schultz as I am with CeeDee Lamb. The big plays are just not going to be there with CeeDee Lamb. Is Cooper Rush going to come off the bench and be some kind of savior? I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb, that is a huge break for sure, given that Prescott injury. All right, so that's all I have for today. Remember, if you haven't already hit that subscribe and notification button, make sure you do so. Any last-minute questions before I go, make sure you post that. If not, I will probably just sign off. And as far as the rest of the week is concerned, the next stream will be the Football Friday stream. That would be probably 5 or 6 o'clock. I'm going to try to stay on for as long, for an hour and a half, just so we can get all the injury news done because Friday's obviously the big day with the injury. So I'll update all the injuries on Friday. Take your questions, as always, in the chat. Anything else that comes down the pike between now and then, I'll discuss it as well. Robert, thanks for the kind words. I'll catch you on the next one as well. That will be Friday, unless something big happens from now until then, and then I'll jump back on. But until then, guys, we'll talk soon. Take care.